This is the land of our beginning. But let me ask you this. What if one of Hollywood's grandest epics wasn't peaceful behind the camera at all? Exodus wasn't just a sweeping historical drama. It was a battlefield of exploding tempers, collapsing call sheets, political pressure, and production chaos that nearly shattered the film from the inside out. Today we're pulling the curtain back. These are 20 weird facts about Exodus, 1960. You didn't know. And that final bonus fact? Let's just say something hidden in the soundtrack changed movie history in a way no one expected. Let's begin. Fact number 1. Paul Newman's makeup melts in the Cyprus heat. Paul Newman arrives in Cyprus ready to embody Ari Ben Canaan, but the heat doesn't cooperate. Temperatures spike so brutally that Newman's makeup begins melting between takes, literally sliding off his face. Every scene requires constant retouching, delayed resets, and emergency shade tints. It isn't vanity, it's survival. The production quickly realizes the weather is its first true antagonist. Equipment overheats, film stock warps, call sheets collapse under the unforgiving sun. What audiences don't know is that half the movie's close-ups depend on frantic crew work just off camera, fighting the clock before Newman's look dissolves again. Not glamour, but endurance. Not a clean epic, but a storm fought frame by frame. Fact number 2. Director Otto Preminger rewrites the script daily. Otto Preminger isn't a man who settles. He rewrites scenes constantly, sometimes minutes before filming. Cast members arrive on set believing one thing, only to be handed brand new pages that overturn entire character arcs. This isn't chaos for chaos's sake. Preminger is obsessed with emotional precision. But the rewrites drain morale. Actors complain privately that they can't track their motivations. Crew members joke that the real thriller isn't the story on screen, but the race to keep up with Preminger's evolving vision. What looks steady in the final film is built on shifting sands no audience ever sees. Not a locked script, but a living battle plan. Fact number 3. Eva Marie Saint receives her lines the morning of filming. Eva Marie Saint enters the project expecting careful preparation. Instead, she's handed pages only hours before cameras roll. She later admits it forces her into a rawer, more instinctive performance than she anticipated. Preminger wants spontaneity, but Saint feels the weight of the expectations. The role is emotionally heavy, and last-minute changes make each scene a high-wire act. The tension shows subtly on screen. Her character's inner conflict mirrors the reality she faces behind the lens. What audiences take as dramatic restraint is often Saint navigating material barely rehearsed. It wasn't comfort, it was controlled discomfort. Fact number 4. Real soldiers guarded some shooting locations. Parts of the production film near areas still sensitive from regional conflict. To ensure safety, real soldiers armed and uniformed stand watch around the set. They keep unauthorized observers away and monitor the perimeter for potential threats. Cast and crew move through checkpoints just to reach filming spots. This isn't Hollywood stagecraft. It's real geography in a tense moment of history. The presence of military personnel shapes the mood. Quieter, heavier, more alert. Every wide shot of those sweeping landscapes carries an invisible ring of security around it. Not staged tension, but the real thing. Fact number 5. A massive ship sequence nearly collapses the budget. The refugee ship Olympia looks majestic on screen, but behind the scenes, it's a logistical nightmare. Renting it, outfitting it, transporting crew members to and from it, all of it devours money. Waves make lighting setups nearly impossible. Extras get seasick. Equipment slides across the deck. Production managers warn Preminger repeatedly that the sequence is draining resources meant for later scenes, but he refuses to scale it down. That ship becomes a symbol of his commitment. No half measures. What viewers see as a brief chapter nearly sinks the entire financial plan. Fact number 6. Filming in Israel creates unexpected diplomatic stress. Israel's government wants the film made, but carefully. Officials routinely visit the set, monitor production, and ask questions about framing, dialogue, and historical accuracy. It's not overt censorship, but it's close. Preminger bristles at the oversight. Tension erupts when he pushes back against suggestions to soften certain scenes. Crew members later describe those meetings as polite but heavy. Every choice becomes a negotiation. Tone, lighting, even angles. The film isn't just a story. It becomes a political instrument none of the cast expected to navigate. Fact number 7. Leon Uris, the author, refuses to watch the filming. Leon Uris, who wrote the original novel, famously refuses to visit the set. He and Preminger clash early over interpretation. Uris believes the screenplay loses the novel's emotional core. Preminger argues that film is a different medium. Their disagreement escalates until Uris simply distances himself entirely. The cast quietly worries about taking on a story whose own creator feels sidelined. Ironically, several scenes Uris fought hardest against become standout moments in the film. Not harmony, but fracture. Not collaboration, but parallel visions. Fact number 8. Sal Mineo's most emotional scene requires dozens of takes. Sal Mineo throws himself into the role of Dov, drawing on deep wells of emotion. But Preminger pushes for more vulnerability, more pain, more control. A key emotional scene takes over 30 takes. Mineo arrives at exhaustion. His voice cracks. His hands shake. When the final print is chosen, audiences see intensity. What they don't see is the cost, the repeated breakdowns, the silent resets, and the absolute drain on Mineo's energy. The character's trauma becomes intertwined with the actor's real struggle on set. Fact number 9. Local extras walk off after disputes. Tensions rise during scenes that involve large groups of local extras. Pay disagreements and long delays spark frustration. At one point, dozens of extras walk off mid-day, leaving the crew scrambling to reframe shots and rewrite blocking. Production assistants race into nearby towns, searching for replacements. The incident forces the team to reorganize entire sequences. What seems smooth and coordinated on screen is actually the result of last-minute patchwork. Not orderly crowd scenes, just controlled improvisation. Fact number 10. A key night scene almost shuts down from power failure. Halfway through filming one of the major night sequences, the power grid collapses. Lights go out. Generators falter. Preminger stands in complete darkness on a location that suddenly feels remote and exposed. The crew scrambles for backup units, but they're miles away. Hours pass. Tempers simmer. Eventually, power returns, but schedules implode. Before we move on, go ahead and like and subscribe because the next 10 facts reveal production secrets even longtime Exodus fans have never heard. This blackout becomes a turning point, proof the production is always one step away from shutting down. Fact number 11. Paul Newman performs several risky scenes himself. Paul Newman doesn't want to look like a polished Hollywood star dropped into a rugged landscape. He wants grit. He wants authenticity. And he wants audiences to feel every ounce of the character's resolve. That desire leads him to perform several scenes that, while not officially classified as stunts, carry very real danger. He climbs sharp, unstable terrain where loose rocks threaten to send him slipping. He runs across uneven ground at full speed while the camera tracks him from unpredictable angles. Crew members later admit that watching him work was nerve-wracking because one wrong step could have meant serious injury. Insurance reps strongly recommend using a double for certain sequences. Preminger, always hungry for realism, quietly approves Newman's insistence on doing them himself. The result is a tense balance. The director wants power on screen, the producers want safety, and Newman wants truth. What audiences see is control, measured breath, confident movement, steady presence. What they don't see is the risk just outside the camera frame. Every footstep Newman takes is a calculated gamble, a commitment that turns physical strain into cinematic honesty. Not stunt spectacle, just raw, grounded danger lived in real time. Fact number 12. The famous score is completed under extreme pressure. Ernest Gold's score sounds effortless, majestic horns, sweeping strings, and a theme that seems shaped by centuries rather than weeks. But behind that elegance lies a brutal deadline. Gold receives his rough cuts late due to non-stop production delays, leaving him almost no time to compose the towering musical identity the film now carries. He works through the night, scribbling ideas on staff sheets while editors rush in and out with updated reels. Orchestrators struggle to keep pace, preparing parts as fast as Gold can write them. Some recount grabbing coffee with one hand and rewriting measures with the other. Recording days become marathons. Musicians sit for hours as Gold adjusts dynamics, reworks passages, and sharpens crescendos on the spot. The pressure never lets up. Everyone knows the score must elevate the film's massive emotional weight. No shortcuts allowed. Yet from exhaustion comes brilliance. The Exodus theme emerges bold, aching, triumphant. Gold shapes its melody with the urgency inside the studio, pouring every frantic hour into its sound. When the film premieres, the score is hailed as one of the most stirring ever written. What the audience hears as soaring hope is actually the echo of a composer racing the clock. Fact number 13. Filming the kibbutz scenes requires real farm work. To capture the rhythm of Kibbutz life, Preminger refuses to rely on staged motions or actor approximations. He wants authenticity, not imitation. So he immerses the cast in real farm labor. Actors spend mornings moving irrigation pipes across dusty fields. They haul heavy sacks, often surprised by just how much weight real agricultural work demands. Local workers teach them to handle machinery, adjust tools, and coordinate their movements as a team. These lessons aren't optional. They shape how the scenes will play out. The heat is unforgiving. Dirt settles into every fold of clothing. Equipment clanks, water splashes, and the hum of daily chores creates an atmosphere impossible to fake. Some actors describe the process as grounding. Others simply admit it's exhausting. Either way, the experience forces them into the mindset of the characters they portray, people building something from the earth with their own hands. What audiences later see as natural, unforced movement is the result of days spent mastering the real tasks. Even small gestures, lifting a crate, adjusting a valve, pushing a wheelbarrow, carry genuine physical memory. Not fabricated farm life, just honest labor transformed into cinematic truth. Fact number 14. Several extras are former fighters from the region. When the production needs extras to portray rebels and soldiers, the casting process takes an unexpected turn. Many of the men hired have real histories in regional conflicts. They aren't performers learning choreography. They're individuals who have lived intense situations and understand the weight of weapons, uniforms, and tactics. As filming begins, their presence instantly changes the energy of the set. These extras move with ease through military formations. They instinctively take cover in natural ways. They correct small details, how to grip certain equipment, how to signal in silence, how to step over uneven terrain. Cast members quietly watch and learn. Even experienced Hollywood actors admit these men bring gravity that can't be taught on a soundstage. Their lived experience subtly shapes the film's tone. Scenes involving strategic planning or tense anticipation feel grounded because the people filling the frame aren't imagining the feelings, they're remembering them. Crew members later say that moments which seemed like powerful acting were, in fact, echoes of real histories. What audiences interpret as convincing performance is, in many cases, authentic muscle memory. Not staged realism, but experience captured on camera. Fact number 15. Preminger insists on real explosions for action scenes. Otto Preminger isn't a director who hides intensity behind camera tricks. When the script calls for explosions, he refuses miniature models or visual cheats. He demands the real thing, controlled demolitions detonated on location. This decision creates an entirely new layer of complexity for the crew. Safety teams must calculate blast distances with precision. Fire units stand by as the heat of each explosion rolls across the set. Engineers set charges, adjust triggering systems, and walk the cast through the safe zones again and again. These steps take hours, sometimes full days, to prepare for a few seconds of footage. Actors feel the rumble of the explosions through the ground. Cameras shake from the impact. Dust clouds rise and drift across the horizon long after the blast ends. The authenticity is undeniable, but the pressure is enormous. Every successful explosion means a scramble to reset debris, reposition equipment, and recheck safety measures. One mistake could end the entire production. Crew members later admit that filming these sequences is some of the most intense work of their careers. What looks like seamless action is really a carefully orchestrated dance with danger. Not visual effects, just pure, muscular filmmaking. Fact number 16. A location storm destroys equipment overnight. Nature becomes the production's most unpredictable adversary when a violent overnight storm hits a key filming site. The crew arrives at dawn to a scene that looks like a disaster zone. Tents collapse inward like crushed shells. Light stands lean at distorted angles. Cables snake through pools of mud, half submerged. Several expensive equipment cases are so soaked they must be pried open and dried piece by piece. The storm doesn't just damage gear, it rewrites the entire call sheet for the day. Scenes planned for early morning sunlight are impossible. Makeup teams lose their sheltered stations. Wardrobe racks tilt in mud. Preminger, surveying the damage, must rethink the entire shooting plan. Production assistants sprint to salvage anything still functional. Departments reorganize their spaces under makeshift tarps. Insurance claims begin immediately, adding new paperwork to an already overloaded schedule. Hours later, when the skies clear, the team manages to capture a serene sunrise shot that feels calm and intentional. What audiences see is beauty. What they don't see is the chaos that existed only hours earlier. Not a peaceful location, but a battlefield reclaimed from the weather. Fact number 17. An improvised moment becomes a touchstone scene. Amid a particularly emotional dialogue scene, Paul Newman feels something unscripted, an instinctive gesture, a moment of quiet reflection that isn't written on the page. Instead of following the planned blocking, he pauses, lowers his gaze, and adds a subtle shift in expression that conveys more vulnerability than the scripted version ever attempted. Preminger, known for strict control over performances, surprises everyone by allowing the moment to continue. The crew senses the shift. The air grows still. When the camera stops rolling instead of demanding a retake, Preminger says only, "That stays." The improvised beat becomes a defining moment in the film, one of those small emotional details that lingers long after the credits roll. Film scholars later analyze the gesture, noting its thematic resonance and emotional authenticity. But what they never realize is just how spontaneous it truly was. The moment isn't designed. It's discovered, captured in a single take, fueled by intuition rather than instruction. Not planned poetry, just raw instinct preserved forever on film. But number 18. Editing takes months longer than expected. The editing room for Exodus becomes its own battlefield. The production returns with an overwhelming amount of footage. Sweeping location passes, complex crowd scenes, multiple takes of emotional confrontations, and hours of unscripted natural landscape shots. Sorting through it all becomes a monumental challenge. Editors build and rebuild sequences, only for Preminger to shift the narrative emphasis and request a new approach. Entire arcs are rearranged, transitional beats are rethought. The pacing undergoes multiple transformations from sprawling to compact to somewhere in between. Every choice triggers a ripple effect that forces revisions elsewhere. Some scenes once positioned as emotional anchors are trimmed or removed entirely for coherence. Others, originally considered minor, are elevated into pivotal moments. Days stretch into nights as editors chase the version Preminger envisions, one rooted in scale but controlled in storytelling. When the film finally locks, it carries a smoothness that belies the turmoil behind it. The audience never sees the abandoned edits, the scrapped transitions, or the countless hours of debate. Not efficiency, but relentless refinement. Fact number 19. Its release sparks global debate. When Exodus premieres, it immediately becomes more than a film. It becomes a cultural flashpoint. Viewers engage with it not as entertainment, but as commentary. Newspapers publish impassioned editorials. Reviewers debate historical framing, political implications, and emotional tone. Some praise its ambition, others critique its perspective. In living rooms, schools, and community centers, conversations erupt about the film's representation of events and characters. The discussions don't fade after opening weekend, they intensify. For months, public discourse circles around the movie. Screenings draw audiences who want to experience the film firsthand, just to understand the arguments surrounding it. Its impact reaches far beyond box office numbers. It becomes a cultural catalyst that shapes perception. Even people who haven't seen the film recognize its influence through the conversations around it. Actors involved in the production later admit they never expected the movie to resonate so widely or to provoke such strong responses. Not passive viewing, but active engagement that transforms a film into a global talking point. Fact number 20. The production inspires future filmmakers. In the years following its release, Exodus becomes required viewing for young directors fascinated by epic storytelling. Film students study its sweeping cinematography, its use of real landscapes, and its ability to merge intimate character moments with enormous historical scale. Its combination of location shooting, intense performances, and practical effects becomes a foundational template for political dramas made throughout the decades. Composers examine Ernest Gold's score as an example of how music can elevate a film's emotional weight. Critics revisit the film regularly, re-evaluating its impact in the context of evolving cultural dialogue. Even behind-the-scenes struggles become teaching tools. Professors use the production's challenges, storms, rewrites, reshoots, political pressures as cautionary tales about managing ambition in complex, real-world environments. Some directors cite Exodus as the work that convinced them to pursue large-scale projects. Others appreciate its imperfections as a testament to the difficulty of making a film that attempts so much. Not just a movie, but a blueprint for daring filmmaking. Bonus fact: the Exodus theme accidentally becomes a global anthem. Here's the most unexpected twist. Ernest Gold's Exodus theme, written under sleepless pressure, becomes more than a soundtrack cue. Orchestras worldwide begin performing it independently of the film. It's played at ceremonies, cultural events, even athletic competitions. The theme becomes synonymous with resilience and identity far beyond the movie. Few film scores ever escape their source. This one does. It wasn't just music, it was a movement. Exodus didn't arrive calmly. It erupted into being through storms, rewrites, walkouts, explosions, and relentless willpower. The film audiences see is only the surface. Beneath it lies a saga of ambition, conflict, improvisation, and endurance. If you enjoyed this deep dive into hidden history, hit like, subscribe, and tell me which classic epic should be uncovered next. And remember, in filmmaking, nothing is ever as simple as it looks on screen.